Hey, what's going on, guys? Andrew here again. And this week I am going to be officially starting what I'm going to call my top 12 Tuesdays. I'll release one every week except for in October, because in October, like I said last video, I'll be doing one movie every single day. So that'll cover the entire month, 31 days of Halloween. But for this, other than that, once a week I'll be doing a top 12 movies review, or top 12 countdown videos. For this one, I kind of started to get this idea because a couple of the reviewers that we watch do like top 10 of like most watched Blu-rays in their collection or something like that. And I'm going to do that next week. But for this week, I'm going to do top 12 horror movies that I have watched. So like not just like movies that I've collected that like I've watched like since I bought it and I'll just put it in, but I mean like in my entire life, these are the 12 movies that I've watched the most. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get right into this. Number 12 is a movie you should recognize. That would be My Soul to Take. Yeah, I honestly, it was probably about two and a half years ago now that I think I first watched this, and I think I probably watched it like 5 or 6 times in like a 3-week period. It was ridiculous. And then I bought it, and I probably watched it, you know, half a dozen times in the next month. Yeah, I've watched this movie quite a bit. I love it. Yeah, you guys heard me talk about it all last week, so I won't kill you with that. Next one's going to be a 2-pack because I kind of watch them all both together all the time, and that's going to be the I Know What You Did Last Summers. Both of these I remember watching from the time I was little. Now I was born in, this is a date before me, I was born in 93, so that would put me at 23 years old now. So these came out whenever I was, you know, 4 or 5 years old. So, you know, from the time I didn't obviously see them in theaters because I wasn't old enough to even remember them. But like, you know, I remember watching these when like early 2000s when they came on TV and stuff, and I always remember loving them. And since I, you know, bought them on DVD and stuff, I've watched them countless times. I watch them every July 4th. I absolutely love these movies. I know they're really hated by the horror community, but it's whatever. Next up is actually, I could put either one of them, but I'm just going to put this. I'm going to put the remake of My Bloody Valentine. Now, I could put the original on there too, because I've honestly watched them probably about as much, but I do remember buying this one and watching it 3 or 4 times before I watched the original. So I'm going to give the slight nod to this one because I've watched it just a little bit more. Now I haven't popped it in. I'm going to wait until till February rolls around to actually pop in 3D. But yeah, I've watched this movie countless times. Every February before Valentine's Day, I probably watch this 3 or 4 times. Actually, all 3 of my Valentine Day movies, I probably watch that many times. So, yeah, I love them all. That was number 10. Number 9 is Pet Sematary. Now, you guys all probably are familiar with AMC's Fear Fest that they put on every, you know, October. They from the time I can remember have always had Pet Sematary. Now I haven't seen it in the past couple years, and honestly I haven't really had cable because I was in a dorm room that didn't have cable. I do have it this year, but this one here from the time I remember was always on AMC Fear Fest, and I watched it every year. I watched it every time it was on, even not in Fear Fest. I do remember it being on quite a bit, and especially late at night. And I always would pop this one in. Yeah, it was pretty fun. That would be number 9. Number 8 is gonna be The Messengers. Now I've said this over and over and over again. This is one of those guilty pleasure type movies where this is a cliched to the core horror film. It just like all jump scares. You can see them coming from a mile away. There's really no suspense to it. It's just, I just have watched this movie so many times, I've come to enjoy it, and I watched this over, and I honestly couldn't even count how many times I watched this in one summer because they had it on, I'm not kidding, every single day they had it on at least 2 or 3 times. And we'd probably sit through it at least once every day. So yeah, I do have fond memories of this. Yeah, I'm just going to go with this probably, I keep losing track. This is number 7. And that would be Predator. Now, honestly, I haven't watched this in the last, like, 8 years that many times. I probably watched it once or twice. But whenever I was growing up, and probably, like, between, like, ages, like, 8 to 14, and that's going to be with the same with the next one coming up, I probably watched this hundreds of times. I had this on VHS when I was little, and I would replay it over and over and over. This is one of them that I just absolutely just loved. I could watch this over and over again, and I've recently put this on Blu-ray and just sat back and enjoyed it, and it's a blast. It's just a macho man science fiction awesome movie. Yeah, it's super fun. It's not necessarily horror, it's a science fiction, but it has horror and slasher elements in it, so that's why I counted it. Next up is Jeepers Creepers, the original. I honestly can't remember which one I've watched more. I probably have watched this one more because I do remember, like the same that I did with Predator, I would watch Jeepers Creepers over and over and over again. And we'd kind of put it on, and I can remember the scene of, oh, police were being chased by a guy who likes to pull tongues out of severed... just that scene. I remember listening to that over and over because I got so... It was so funny to me. It's just really entertaining. But yeah, I do remember watching that a lot. I don't watch it as much anymore. I do watch the second one more. I just enjoy it a little bit more, but yeah, it's whatever. Now this, I could put any number of them on there, but the Friday the 13th. Now I've watched the Friday the 13th more times than I can remember. I am a huge Friday the 13th fan. I have the Friday the 13th ring. Somewhere in here I have a Friday, yeah, I'm reaching for it now. I have a Friday the 13th necklace. Now I don't wear the necklace that much, but it's still awesome. But I wear the ring every day. Yeah, it's like my favorite franchise. I just have such a fun time with every one of these movies. I could watch any of them. You know, I don't know couldn't speculate on which one I've watched more, because one summer I watched, and this was at a camp, so it was perfect. I watched 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 in the reboot, because that was the only ones that I owned. I watched them each succinct night, and I just would restart it over once I was done. I like for the entire summer, I just continuously watched those. And, you know, it built up a great love for this franchise. So, yeah. That is for that one. I don't even know 10, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. This is number 4. And this is probably my favorite film of all time. And that would be Halloween 2. I haven't watched this as much as I've watched some of the other ones on my list. But I do remember watching this one quite a bit whenever I was little. I remember all the hospital scenes, and I remember I can't remember what all specific scenes that I remember from when I was little. I do remember this scene here, and then I do remember, yeah, there's just quite a bit of this that I can't, oh, and the very beginning is something that I remember, because I remember, like, if you notice in the second one, they have his face, like, blacked out so you can't see it. Yeah, it was quite interesting that I just noticed these little things, and then obviously at the beginning he falls down onto a thing and you can clearly see it and it just I don't know. And then the second one, how it begins and everything, where like the pumpkin like cuts in half with the face in it. Yeah, I don't know, something about it I always really remember loving and having fond memories of, which is probably why it's my favorite of the franchise and for those two. Number 3, I'm really going to have to go with, now I'm going to have to be specific on this because I'm pulling out this. I'm going to have to go with the second and the third one. Specifically because for an entire semester, I probably watched the second and the third one. Like right before I go to bed. I sometimes I put on, I don't do that more now, but I used to just put on like a movie and then I'd fall asleep to the movie. So like I'd had this subscription to this horror like pay streaming site, and then I would put on the second one and the third one like back to back to back to back, and just keep doing it. Like they were always like, they're always the ones that I like can fall asleep to because they're not really scary, but they're always interesting. So like to me they're really relaxing, the second and the third one. So like I just can fall asleep to them. So that obviously puts that with with the second and the third one. Number 2 is going to be, I'm going to bring out this pack. It's going to, honestly, I could bring out, I could say the first one, the fourth, and the fifth ones. Now, I would say the first one I've watched the most. But if you remember, it was probably like, I'd say like 5 or more years ago. The fourth and the fifth one is, for some reason, AMC Fear Fest always puts them on the most. So I would always put on the fourth and will always be watching the fourth and the fifth. And I've always had a love for those movies because of that. Like even now, like I can always put on the fourth and the fifth one. And now everybody says that there's like, huge problems with the, the fifth one and everything. But to me, I still just have such a love for it because I've watched it so many times. And the fourth one as well, like for some reason, like really late at night, like at like 12 and 2, like 4 and 5 would be on. So I would just watch them back to back. And yeah, I've always been a night owl. And then the first one, it's just, I've just seen it so many times. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I like I said, I've probably seen that one the most out of all of them. But yeah, I could put any one of them because they're just so epic and awesome, and it's incredible how good of a job that that movie is and how good it did. And Scream Factory's release of this is incredible. But yeah, that's number 2, and number 1 is the first Scream. I think out of all the horror movies, I've probably seen this the most for sure. If you remember, well, I've said this multiple times before on my channel, but for an entire 9 weeks, whenever I was in 3rd grade, I watched this, I'm not kidding, at least once every single night. Every single night. Monday through Sunday. Every single night. I did not take a break from it. Can't explain why I did it. I absolutely loved this movie. There's just something about it that I can just keep watching it over and over, never get tired of it. Like I don't know what it is about it. And of course, the only one that isn't on it is the fourth one, which I do still watch quite a bit too. That might be on my most watched Blu-rays. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to think about it more. But yeah, I have seen this. I mean, it has to be hundreds of times now. Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, for non-horrors or even like things that are close to being horror movies, you got like Small Soldiers. I say that because it was directed by Joe Dante, who also directed The Howling and Gremlins, and also had the effects by Stan Winston, who directed Pumpkinhead. Also Godzilla, the '98 version. I say that because it's horror-esque. It's a monster movie, so it's kind of like it's got horror, features through it. But I just didn't count that because it's not horror specifically. But yeah, those two I watched over and over again when I was little too. Being close to being on my list was like Night of the Living Dead and The Shining. Those are two that I've seen also like an infinite amount of times that I can't even explain how many. But yeah, I mean, these are probably the 12 that I think that I've seen the most. Now, those two I could have probably, I just lose count at this point because I have so many movies and watched them so many times that it's hard to keep track of how many times you've watched them. But yeah, from what I can remember, these are the 12, or, I mean, obviously, I had more than 12 movies, but these are the 12, like, countdown that I've watched the most out of any of my series. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this list. As always, you can like, comment, let me know what you think down below. And yeah, thanks guys for tuning in. Like I said, next week will be top 12 most watched Blu-rays in my collection. And then I'll have, but before that, I'll also have a random review coming in too. So hopefully you guys tune in for that as well. Thank you guys for tuning into this one. Have a great week. And yeah, I'll have another announcement to make on my next video. So thanks guys, have a great week.